The moment Jake Sullivan walked into classroom 203, his heart stopped. 15 years had passed, but he'd recognize those eyes anywhere, the same ones that had once looked at him with such love, now widened in shock from behind the principal's desk. Sarah Mitchell, his first love, his greatest regret, was his daughter's principal. If you've ever wondered if the universe gives second chances, stay with me until the end of this story. And if it touches your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories that remind us love finds a way, even when we least expect it. Jake shifted uncomfortably in the small plastic chair meant for a parent half his size. His daughter Lily's fourth-grade classroom felt suffocating now, the colorful alphabet charts and student artwork blurring as he tried to process what was happening. He'd prepared himself for meeting Lily's teacher, Ms. Peterson, not for coming face-to-face with the woman who'd broken his heart when they were barely 20. "Mr. Sullivan?" Ms. Peterson's voice cut through his thoughts. "Principal Mitchell will be joining us shortly. She likes to sit in on as many parent-teacher conferences as possible." Jake nodded, his mouth suddenly dry. He'd moved back to Mapleton just 3 months ago after his ex-wife decided motherhood wasn't for her, leaving him to raise 8-year-old Lily alone. He'd chosen his hometown hoping for stability, for the comfort of familiar streets, never imagining he'd find Sarah here. The door opened, and there she was. Sarah Mitchell, once Sarah Collins, walked in with the confident stride of someone who commanded respect. Her dark hair was shorter now, cut in a sleek bob that framed her face perfectly. She wore a tailored navy suit that screamed success, so different from the free-spirited girl in ripped jeans who'd once sworn she'd never conform to corporate America. "I apologize for being late, I was just finishing a call with the school board about," her words died as their eyes met. For a moment, the professional mask slipped, revealing the girl he'd once known. "Jake?" "Hello, Sarah." His voice sounded steadier than he felt. Ms. Peterson glanced between them, clearly sensing the tension. "You two know each other?" Sarah recovered first, slipping back into her role as Principal Mitchell. "Mr. Sullivan and I are old acquaintances. Please, continue with the conference." The next 20 minutes were torture. Jake tried to focus on Ms. Peterson's assessment of Lily's progress, her exceptional reading skills, her struggles with math, her tendency to daydream, but his awareness of Sarah sitting just feet away made concentration impossible. She remained professional, asking relevant questions about Lily's adjustment to the new school, but never once looking directly at him. When the conference ended, Jake expected Sarah to make a quick exit. Instead, she lingered as Ms. Peterson excused herself to prepare for the next parents. "Single dad?" Sarah asked quietly once they were alone. Jake nodded. "For about a year now. My ex decided parenthood wasn't her calling." "I'm sorry to hear that." Her voice softened. "Lily seems like a wonderful child. She's everything to me." The pride in his voice was unmistakable. "And you?" "Principal Mitchell." "That's unexpected." A small smile played at her lips. "Life takes us on strange journeys. I thought you'd be running some tech company by now. Wasn't that the plan? Silicon Valley, changing the world?" Something flickered across her face, pain, perhaps, or regret. "I was CEO of EdTech Innovations for 7 years. I stepped down 6 months ago." Before Jake could ask why, the door opened as the next set of parents arrived. Sarah straightened, once again Principal Mitchell. "It was good seeing you, Jake. Truly." She handed him her card. "If you have any concerns about Lily's adjustment, my door is always open." Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and for a moment, Jake was 20 again, feeling that same electric connection that had once convinced him they were meant to be. Jake couldn't sleep that night. After tucking Lily in and listening to her excited chatter about her school friends, he found himself sitting on his back porch, Sarah's business card in his hand. The moonlight illuminated her name, the formal title beneath it, Sarah Mitchell, ed.d., principal. 15 years ago, they'd been inseparable, high school sweethearts who'd stayed together through their first 2 years of college. Sarah had been brilliant, ambitious, with dreams bigger than their small town could contain. Jake had been the hometown boy, talented at carpentry like his father, content with simpler dreams. Their breakup had been his fault. When Sarah received the prestigious internship in California, Jake had panicked. He couldn't imagine leaving Mapleton, couldn't picture himself in the fast-paced world she was entering. Instead of supporting her, he'd given her an ultimatum, him or California. She chose California, and he'd spent years regretting his selfishness. Now here she was, back in Mapleton. Principal of the elementary school he'd once attended. Life had a strange sense of humor. Before he could talk himself out of it, Jake pulled out his phone and typed the email address from her card. Sarah. Seeing you today was unexpected. There's so much I've wanted to say to you over the years. Would you be willing to meet for coffee sometime? Just to catch up, Jake. He hit send before courage deserted him, then immediately regretted it. She was his daughter's principal. This was inappropriate on so many levels. To his surprise, his phone pinged with a response less than 5 minutes later. Jake. Maple Street Cafe, Saturday at 10 a.m. They still make those cinnamon rolls you used to love, Sarah. Jake found himself smiling at the screen. She remembered. Saturday morning found Jake arriving at the cafe 15 minutes early, nervously checking his reflection in the window. At 37, he still had the broad shoulders and strong build from years of carpentry work, but his once dark hair now showed traces of silver at the temples, and the lines around his eyes told stories of both laughter and hardship. He spotted Sarah the moment she walked in. Weekend Sarah was different from Principal Mitchell, her hair loose around her shoulders, dressed in jeans and a simple blue sweater that brought out the color of her eyes. She looked younger, more like the girl he remembered. You're early, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Some habits never change. He smiled. You're exactly on time. That hasn't changed either. The awkwardness of their first meeting dissolved as they fell into conversation. Jake told her about his carpentry business, how he'd expanded from simple furniture to custom home renovations, becoming one of the most sought-after craftsmen in the county. He spoke of his marriage to Melissa, a whirlwind romance that had resulted in Lily, and the slow, painful dissolution when Melissa realized motherhood wasn't what she'd expected. She's in Seattle now, Jake explained. Calls Lily once a week. It's not ideal, but we're making it work. Sarah nodded, understanding in her eyes. Lily seems well adjusted. That's a testament to you, Jake. What about you? He asked. You were a CEO? That's impressive. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. EdTech innovations. We developed educational software for schools. It was everything I thought I wanted. What happened? She traced the rim of her coffee cup, gathering her thoughts. Success happened. Money happened. 80-hour workweeks happened. And then one day, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt genuinely happy. She looked up at him. I had this beautiful corner office overlooking San Francisco Bay, and I was completely alone. So you came back to Mapleton? Not immediately. First came the burnout, then the panic attacks. My board suggested a sabbatical. I came back to visit my parents, and the elementary school principal position had just opened up. It felt like a sign. Jake reached across the table, briefly touching her hand. Are you happy now? The smile that spread across her face was genuine. Getting there. I love working with the kids, making a difference in a tangible way. It's not changing the world through technology like I planned, but it feels right. They talked for hours, long after their coffee grew cold and the cinnamon rolls were reduced to crumbs. Jake learned that Sarah had never married, had devoted herself entirely to her career. She learned about Jake's struggles and triumphs as a single father, about Lily's passion for books and her recent obsession with building elaborate fairy houses in their backyard. "She sounds like the perfect combination of you and, not you," Sarah said carefully. Jake laughed. "That's diplomatically put. Lily got my creativity and her mother's determination. It's a powerful mix." When they finally left the cafe, the afternoon sun was high in the sky. They stood awkwardly on the sidewalk, neither wanting to say goodbye. "I'd like to see you again," Jake said finally. "Not as Lily's principal, but as Sarah." She hesitated, professional concerns visible in her expression. "There are ethical considerations, Jake. I'm responsible for your daughter's education." "I understand. But we're also two adults with history who might have a future. If you want." Sarah looked at him for a long moment, then smiled. "I'd like that. But we need to be careful, for Lily's sake." As Jake drove home, he felt lighter than he had in years. The universe had given them a second chance, and this time, he wouldn't let fear stand in his way. Over the next few months, Jake and Sarah navigated their rekindling relationship with careful boundaries. At school, they maintained strictly professional interactions. Principal Mitchell never showed favoritism toward Lily Sullivan, and Jake attended school functions as just another parent. But weekends became their time. They hiked the trails they'd explored as teenagers, rediscovered favorite spots around town, and created new memories. Sarah met Lily officially during a casual encounter at the town's autumn festival, just another friend of her dad's who happened to enjoy the same caramel apples Lily loved. "She's your boss at school, right, Dad?" Lily had asked afterward, her perceptiveness catching Jake off guard. "She's the principal, yes." Lily had considered this with the serious expression she reserved for important matters. "She laughs at your jokes. Most grown-ups don't think you're funny." Jake had chuckled. "Is that your approval, kiddo? She makes you happy." "I can tell." Lily had shrugged, returning to her book with the matter settled in her 8-year-old mind. But not everyone in Mapleton was as accepting. Small towns had long memories and longer tongues. Whispers started about the principal's special relationship with a parent. Sarah began receiving pointed questions from school board members about professional boundaries. "Maybe we should cool things down," Sarah suggested one evening as they sat on Jake's porch. "Just until the school year ends." Jake felt a familiar panic rising, the same fear of losing her he'd experienced 15 years ago. But he wasn't that selfish boy anymore. "If that's what you need, I understand," he said, though the words pained him. "Your career matters." Sarah studied his face in the porch light. 15 years ago, you would have fought me on this. 15 years ago, I only thought about what I wanted. Now I think about what's best for everyone, you, me, Lily." She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "What if I don't want to cool things down? What if I'm tired of letting other people's opinions dictate my happiness? Then we face it together. Whatever comes." The challenges came swiftly. An emergency school board meeting was called to discuss concerns about administrative conduct. Sarah faced the board with dignity, acknowledging her personal relationship with Jake while defending her professional integrity. Jake stood before the same board, explaining that they were two adults making conscious choices, not love-struck teenagers. The board ultimately found no policy violations but suggested discretion moving forward. The experience, though stressful, cemented something between Jake and Sarah, a partnership forged through adversity. By spring, their relationship was common knowledge in Mapleton. Lily had fully embraced Sarah's presence in their lives, especially after discovering Sarah's talent for building fairy houses that rivaled her own. The three of them formed a unit that felt increasingly natural. On a warm May evening, as they prepared dinner together in Jake's kitchen, Sarah chopping vegetables while Jake marinated chicken and Lily set the table. Jake was struck by the domesticity of it all. This was what he'd always wanted, a family, a home filled with love and laughter. "Move in with us," he said suddenly, the words escaping before he could consider them. Sarah's knife paused mid-chop. "What? I love you. I never stopped loving you, even when I was too stubborn to follow you to California. I don't want to waste any more time." Lily looked up from arranging napkins. "Does this mean Sarah would be here all the time? Even for breakfast?" Sarah set down her knife, emotion filling her eyes. "Jake, are you sure? This is a big step. I've never been more sure of anything." He took her hands in his. 15 years ago, I was afraid of change. Now I'm afraid of missing out on a life with you. Say yes." Lily interjected, bouncing on her toes. "Please, Sarah." Sarah laughed through tears. "How can I say no to both Sullivan charm offensives at once?" That night, after Lily was asleep, they sat on the porch swing, planning their future together. Sarah would finish the school year as principal, then accept the district's offer to become curriculum director, a position that would remove any ethical concerns about their relationship. "I never thought I'd find this kind of happiness," Sarah confessed. "In San Francisco, I had everything I thought I wanted, but something was always missing." "What was missing?" Jake asked, though he thought he knew the answer. She smiled, touching his face gently. "This. A place that feels like home. Someone who knows me, the real me, not the CEO or the principal. A family." "We're your family now," Jake said, pulling her close. "You, me, and Lily. The future is ours to build together." As summer approached, Sarah moved into Jake's craftsman home. Her minimalist furniture looked surprisingly at home next to Jake's handcrafted pieces. Lily helped Sarah plant a garden in the backyard, complete with a section dedicated to fairy vegetables for the elaborate fairy community they'd constructed together. On the last day of school, Jake picked up Lily early. They waited in the parking lot as Sarah completed her final duties as principal of Mapleton Elementary. "Dad?" Lily asked, twirling a daisy between her fingers. "Are you and Sarah going to get married?" Jake smiled. "Would you be okay with that if we did?" Lily considered this with her characteristic seriousness. "Yes. But I want to be the flower girl. And I think you should propose somewhere special, not just in our kitchen. Any suggestions?" "The old oak tree by the lake. Sarah told me that's where you had your first date when you were teenagers." Jake stared at his daughter in amazement. "She told you about that?" Lily nodded. "She said it was the most perfect day of her life until she met me." That evening, Jake asked his parents to watch Lily. He took Sarah to the oak tree by the lake, now carved with decades of initials and declarations of love. Their own teenage markings, JS plus SC inside a heart, were still visible, weathered but enduring. As the sun set over the water, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Jake knelt on one knee. 15 years ago, I let fear keep me from following you. I've regretted it every day since. This time, I'm promising to follow you anywhere, to support your dreams as fiercely as you've supported mine." He opened a small wooden box containing a ring he'd designed himself, a diamond set in wood from the very oak tree they stood beneath. "Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she nodded. "Yes. 1,000 times, yes." They were married that fall in a simple ceremony in Jake's backyard. Lily scattered flower petals with solemn dedication, taking her flower girl duties very seriously. Sarah's parents, who had always liked Jake, beamed with happiness. Jake's parents welcomed Sarah back into the family as if she'd never left. During the reception, as golden leaves drifted down around them, Jake pulled Sarah close for a dance. "CEO to small-town principal to my wife," he murmured against her hair. Quite a journey." Sarah laughed softly. "The best journeys are the ones that bring you home." She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the string lights hanging from the trees. "This is where I was always meant to be." As they swayed together, Lily ran up and wrapped her arms around both their waists. Jake lifted her up, and the three of them danced together as the sun set on their perfect day. Sometimes life gives second chances. Sometimes first loves find their way back to each other. And sometimes, the dreams we chase aren't the ones that bring us true happiness. For Jake and Sarah, happiness wasn't found in a corner office overlooking San Francisco Bay or in never leaving their hometown. It was. Write an engaging and emotional story based on the title. Single dad met his first love at parent-teacher night. She was a CEO falling again. Begin the story with hook who joins the viewers at the end. Immediately capture attention, also motive viewers to like video and subscribe the channel. Develop the plot with emotional depth and relatable characters, including key challenges and their resolutions. Ensure the story maintains a smooth pace suitable for an 400-minute YouTube video, leaving a strong, inspiring message by the end. Plain paragraphs but long story as you can based on 12,000-word estimate. Ask follow-up. It was found in the courage to recognize when the universe offers a second chance at love. 5 years later, Jake and Sarah Sullivan stood together at Lily's middle school graduation. At 13, Lily had blossomed into a confident young woman with her father's creativity and her stepmother's determination. She'd just won the school's top academic award, and her proud parents couldn't stop smiling. "She's amazing," Sarah whispered, squeezing Jake's hand. "She has an amazing mother," Jake replied, kissing Sarah's temple. Their family had grown. 3-year-old twins Emma and Ethan sat with their grandparents, too young to understand the ceremony but excited to celebrate their big sister. The Sullivan home had expanded too. Jake had built an addition to accommodate their growing family, his craftsmanship evident in every detail. Sarah had found her true calling as the district's curriculum director, implementing innovative educational approaches that drew attention from neighboring districts. She still worked long hours sometimes, but now she came home to a house filled with love and laughter. Jake's custom furniture business had flourished, with a waiting list that stretched months. He'd hired 2 apprentices and opened a small showroom downtown. His pieces were now sought after throughout the state, each one bearing his distinctive signature blend of modern design and traditional craftsmanship. But their greatest achievement was the family they'd built together, a family forged from second chances and choices made with open hearts. After the ceremony, as they gathered in their backyard for a celebration dinner, Jake found Sarah standing alone by the garden, looking at the fairy houses that she and Lily still maintained, now joined by smaller, toddler-constructed versions. "Penny for your thoughts," he asked, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I was just thinking about that parent-teacher night," Sarah said, leaning back against him. "How terrified I was when I walked into that classroom and saw you sitting there." "Terrified? You looked completely composed to me." She laughed. "Years of boardroom negotiations taught me how to hide panic. Inside, I was that 20-year-old girl again, facing the boy who broke my heart. And now?" Sarah turned in his arms, facing him. "Now I'm grateful for every choice, even the painful ones, that led us here. If we hadn't broken up, if I hadn't gone to California, if you hadn't married Melissa and had Lily, if I hadn't burned out as CEO, we wouldn't have this life." Jake nodded, understanding perfectly. "Every wrong turn led us to the right place." From across the yard, Lily called to them. "Mom! Dad! Grandpa's about to cut the cake without us." They walked hand in hand toward their family, the family they'd created together from the fragments of their separate journeys. As Jake looked around at the faces of those he loved most in the world, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life rarely gives us what we think we want. Sometimes it gives us exactly what we need, even if it takes 15 years and a chance encounter at a parent-teacher night to find it. For Jake and Sarah Sullivan, their greatest love story began with a second chance, proof that sometimes, when we're brave enough to open our hearts again, we find that love was waiting for us all along. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories about love, second chances, and the beautiful unpredictability of life. Remember that sometimes the most unexpected encounters can lead to our greatest happiness. We just need the courage to recognize them when they appear.